recap. Sectional breathing is not one of those very boring techniques where you just simply don't know what's happening. Instead, you are deeply involved in the lobes of the lungs which are being used, and the breath is not ujjayi. It's also not a very long deep breath. It is very short and shallow breath because you are using 1/3 of the lobes of the lungs. Although we say belly breathing, this is not the same as the belly breathing we talk about in the regular otherwise not a sectional breathing, but when we generally talk about belly breathing, this is really just the lower lobes of the lungs. So we work on only the lower lobes of the lungs. So you take a small breath, you release, and you stay in Kevala Kumbhaka. So this is a practice of, for the most part, being in Kevala Kumbhaka, but Sahaja way. So you're not really pushing yourself to stay in that Bahya Kumbhaka for a long time. You just take a breath when you need and you relax and stay in Kevala Kumbhaka. In that Kevala Kumbhaka, we'll observe the pulse between thumb and index finger. So the mudra, in Chin Mudra, while doing Udara Pranayama, then or Adama Pranayama, Chinmaya Mudra while doing Madhyama, and Adi Mudra when you're doing the what is it called? Clavicular. What is a Sanskrit word? Udara or Adama Pranayama, Madhyama Pranayama. Then there is a Urdhva, something like that. I'm not sure. So there are also Sanskrit names. We'll go over that later. So we are going to do all three with Chin Mudra, Chinmaya Mudra and Adi Mudra, and finally we'll practice full yogic breathing. Now this is the real belly breathing. So you expand your abdomen, your lungs, your chest and the shoulders, and then you bring recoil all three. Although they say again abdomen, chest and the shoulders, you basically let go. So slowly all three lobes of the lungs relax, and Kevala Kumbhaka also. So the idea here is to be making sure that there is enough Kevala Kumbhaka, that is suspension of breath at the end of each breath. The reason being, otherwise hyperventilation becomes our natural habit, even in full yogic breathing especially, because people now think, okay, now I have to deeply breathe and exhale, and then they'll keep doing that without knowing that there is a suspension of breath involved in that. So the idea here is to increase the carbon dioxide in the blood level, but in a very awareful manner, not holding any nose, anything, but the effect is still the same. So in a Sahaja way, you are going to achieve what a Hatha Yogi does by holding the nose and breathing, not breathing for a good amount of time. This is Sahaja way of achieving the same goal, and believe it or not, it's possible. Now you're using the mind, shutting down the mind, so that when you shut down the mind, the breath also slows down and shuts down. Okay, that's the objective. So sit comfortably, eyes closed, back and neck straight. Observe your breath and try not to have any mudra yet. Bring your hands on the thighs. Sukha Mudra. Just observe your breath. Now adopting Chin Mudra, we'll practice just the belly breathing, the lower lobes of the lungs. Inhale, exhale, and relax. Inhaling, the belly expands, exhaling, collapses. And observe the Kevala Kumbhaka, observe the mudra. Thumb and index finger touching each other gently, and the pulse felt at the end of every exhalation in a much more pronounced way. Just the lower lobes of the lungs. At the end of every exhalation, a beautiful suspension of breath. And observe the mudra, the pulse. Focus on the pulse. While inhaling and exhaling, focus on the lower lobes of the lungs. After exhalation, count the pulse. Now chant 3 akara. Inhale. Your akaras are shorter because you are practicing only the lower lobes. 2 more times. Inhale. Now make that akara a long one by taking a deep breath. And that difference tells you how to practice abdominal breathing in sectional breathing. Release the mudra and observe the 2 fingertips. Now adopting Chinmaya Mudra, thumb and index finger touching each other, rest of the fingers curled inside. We'll practice chest level breathing. Inhale, the chest comes forward, abdomen stays where it is. Exhale, relax the chest. And Kevala Kumbhaka, suspension of breath. Take a breath when you need one and relax after that until the need for the next breath arises. In Kevala Kumbhaka, count the pulse. Literally count, but you could count the pulse. To that extent, the pulse is pronounced. Meditate on the mudra in Kevala Kumbhaka. You are in Kevala Kumbhaka more than in the breath. Inhalation and exhalation are two wings, you reside in between. We'll chant 3 Ukara. Inhale. The mudra. Observe the fingertips. Gently adopting Adi Mudra. Now practice shoulder clavicular breathing. Inhaling. The muscles of the clavicles go up as you inhale and come down as you exhale, and then there is Kevala Kumbhaka, and in that observe your mudra. A quick little breath, and then there is Kevala Kumbhaka. not lifting the shoulders. You're simply observing the shoulder muscles go up and down. It's the clavicles, it's the intercostal muscles that are working. It's the upper lobes of the lungs. The abdomen stays where it is, the chest stays where it is, just the shoulder muscles. And Kevala Kumbhaka, lengthen that by shutting down the mind. We'll chant 3 humming sounds as we exhale. Inhale. Release the mudra and relax and observe the palms. We'll now adopt Brahma Mudra, making the fists and placing them with knuckles touching each other at the navel region. Full yogic breathing. Inhale, the abdomen, chest and the shoulders expand. Exhale, release all 3 lobes of the lungs and collapse and stay. Inhale for a deep inhalation and exhale completely and relax. Kevala Kumbhaka and the mudra, observing the mudra. Transcending the breath with Kevala Kumbhaka. Now chant Omkara 3 times. Inhale fully. Observe the palms. Take a mudra of your choice and stay in meditative silence. Continue to develop the awareness of breath and the Kevala Kumbhaka as the focus of meditation. Gently adopting Namaskara Mudra. Wishing this peace and harmony to the whole universe. We'll sing Sarve Bhavantu together. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhilah. Sarve Santu Niramaya. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Taking your hands back. Inhale, bend back. Exhale from the lower back, bending down, taking the blessings. Inhale, come back up. Releasing your hands, rub your palms. Cup your eyes. See an Ishta Devata between the forehead, massaging your face, neck, with hands in front of you as an open book. See your palms, transmit the energy into the palms. Thank you. Namaste. feedback.
Very good kids class.
Okay.
So we taught kids, it happened and it's very challenging. So it was good. We also had some games, but this is nice to see some new games also. Very good. And to keep them all engaged and entertained,
Yeah.
And
You
we do
have-
pranayam actually, I forgot to pranayam.
Yeah.
We do little pranayam with children too, like cooling pranayam.
Yeah.
We do next year every class. I do cooling pranayam with them.
And
And
Bhramari also.
Bhramari, yeah. Bhramari and cooling pranayam.
Mm.
2 pranayam must, it's mandatory. Yeah, we do that and today I forgot.
Yeah. It's hard to visualize that you are children because the class is very different, right?
Yeah.
And that's the time I make sure I am in the center because the feeling is just amazing to be in the adjacent room when she's teaching the class.
Yeah.
You just observe those kids talking and the way she interacts. And just to give you an example, so she always brings these ahimsa talks,
Satya
right?
and Satya
Yeah,
and ahimsa.
Satya and ahimsa, and you should say, so you practiced your Satya this week? Not so much.
Yeah, very honest.
Response. She'll say, oh, that's honest, it's okay, yeah. And you practice some, right? Yeah, that's wonderful. So there's never anything negative from her. So it's amazing how they respond and how she talks. And then one kid, ahimsa, yeah, but somebody was doing something, I just could not practice ahimsa. She says, ahimsa doesn't mean taking everything that they do. If you have to stand up for yourself, you should do that. It's okay. So I was listening to all of that last week, and I said, my God, this is such a beautiful class. Yeah. So do attend her class. I mean, be somewhere around in the center.
Wednesday and Saturday, the 2 classes I take, but Saturday I have class
Saturday,
here.
right now she's here, but
Okay.
eventually Saturday mornings 10:30
10:30 to 11.
and Wednesday
5:30 to
5:30 to 6.
6:30.
So maybe November sometime.
I hear actually, I don't know, when I teach adult, I'm not good, really honestly. As
I think it is perfect for kids. Your voice is
Yeah.
very soft and but also safe presence. You have a very safe presence,
Yeah.
and I like the magic carpet that you did.
Yeah.
I actually went there on my magic carpet. I could actually see clouds in the rainbow.
Yeah.
Very simple way, I don't
Something
know,
that
very
I
simple,
was
like,
wondering what you would tell them at that point. We have very complicated things like Om and those kind of things, but this is equally effective if you can.
and the slippery fish pose, when they do
Slippery
that,
fishes and
imagine the water,
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah,
else.
excellent.
You have to bring something,
It was excellent.
because children, they are pure, their mind is not like ours, they are pure, so we have to go to their level, yeah. So,
And the games also are highly effective. I
yeah,
think.
Nijay is an expert in games, he's the one who
We have
taught me all
a
games.
document which I'm going to go over. This is a guidelines for children's classes. We have developed, and every year we keep adding stuff to it. There are tons of games, even sitting and playing like this. Every situation is not where you can run around, and also sometimes it may not be safe to run around in some locations. So we have things like the mat games where we say blue and everybody has to come to the blue mat, red and everybody has to
Graveyard mind, like you have to stand against the wall, then one student will come front. As soon as the student will turn back, you have to do some certain kind of yoga pose.
yeah.
You have to stay still. Stiram, like we always use the stiram, like
Yeah,
stillness.
it's a statue game. It's
Statue
sort of
game.
a statue
Yeah.
game.
Stick statue, yeah.
But it has to be an asana.
Yeah.
Asana,
like that.
asana pose.
Yeah. Neer, Teer and Stir.
Oh yeah, that game
That's
is
another one.
another
When
one.
we say Neer, they have to come into the water. Teer, they have to go to the banks. And then Stir is like,
Stay
they
still,
should not
yeah.
move. Yeah. That's a presence
I
of
like
mind
the way
game.
she also said Stiram Sukhamasana every now and then. Like, you didn't bring in too many yoga concepts and overwhelm them, but if they can pick up that Stiram Sukhamasana and then that becomes the mantra for them. They know what to do when you say
Yeah,
that. And
they know now.
They know
Everyone.
it's not like fidgeting. So it is a very good like a key word.
Thank you.
I'd also like to share. I was reminded of my own teacher because I started learning when I was 11 years old. So he was very cheerful because you were always smiling and
Yeah.
very cheerful. It's not like we have to be serious and close your eyes and silence and Chittavritti Nirodha, nothing like that.
They are chitta already, not like yours. They are pure. That's what I always think. They are pure. I am just, I'll use my simple language to them. Yeah. And I'm very thankful to Yoga Bharati, really. I love children. I have only one child, but I feel like I have many children now. I'm a mother of many children.
You are
because
into
of Yoga
Montessori,
Bharati.
right?
Yeah, no, I teach in a Bright Horizon. I'm a preschool teacher. And Yoga Bharati.
Last week, actually, I was on the phone with Gitanjali, and I had my grandson in my hand. And today, usually afternoon, he sleeps. And I said, if he sleeps, it's good. Actually, I can a little bit rest, and then I can he wakes up second time. He didn't sleep. Actually, he wasn't sleeping. He was in my hands, and then Gitanjali was on the phone, and she sang a song, and my grandson was. Right
Down by the station, I just sang it.
Really, it was take a video kind of. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
All credit goes to Yoga Bharati and Ashwini. She's the one who gave me tons of training, really,
Yes.
and trust on me. And that's why.
I don't think I did. She's overstating all these things. Yeah, exactly. That's why I said we bring her even in YTT also for kids classes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful because I don't think I would be a perfect good example for kids kind of. I mean, for this kind of activities. But when looking at this, I say I can make it also.
Yeah,
Yes.
everybody can make it.
Yes.
And we also have kids with ADHD, kids with autism spectrum, and we'll talk after this what are the things to be done. We also do chanting sometimes. Some teachers involve more chanting, some don't. Some, Shailesh, for example, involves Patanjali Yoga Sutras. He teaches Patanjali Yoga Sutras for children. I used to teach Bhagavad Gita for children. So whatever is our speciality, you can always bring those things. We always use some shlokas in kids camps as the theme. We even taught Medha Sukta, the Yaschandasam Rishabho Vishwarupaha, and also the Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha. Oh, they love it. It's in a week's kids camp, they learn some real good Vedic chanting. All some 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and they are ready for, without looking anything, no books, no nothing. Whether it is stories or shlokas or anything, we just simply, we will be sitting with the book, obviously, but they won't be needing the book. So we won't give them anything to look. They simply repeat after us, and at the end they say, we might still need the book, but they won't. That's the observation we have. So that is one thing. And for even ADHD and autism spectrum, many a times we have worked with them with chantings, and it works like magic. Many parents come back after 6 months and say, wow, I never imagined my child will learn all these things and be able to sit so much and whatnot. We see that.
Talking about autism, I'd like to share that I have two girls and they go to a Carnatic music teacher. She's a very good teacher, very humble and not commercial. And anyway, so my kids, after learning for about 6 years, they now wanted to quit this year. They wanted to quit last year, but I will deal with them and try to push it for one more year and see if their interest was renewed. But they got lazy. When it comes to hard work, they want to quit. So then I told the teacher, okay, I'm done because I cannot push them anymore. So then she said, let me talk to them. And then she talked to them about chakras and how every like sa corresponds to the lowermost chakra, the Muladhara, sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. So when you sing a note, it strikes a chakra, it activates a chakra. So she told them how they're not just coming here, learning some songs and going back, and this is going to help you in your studies, it's going to make you a better person. So she gave them a talk on chakras and how music helps to stimulate those chakras. And she also mentioned that she's doing her PhD, so she has, as part of her thesis, she has these autistic students coming to her class, and over 2 or 3 years, she has seen tremendous improvement in their behavioral patterns, and they are now able to open up. So that's the power of chanting or music.
Very nice. Wow. yes, children get motivated when we involve all these additional tools where needed, and if they consistently come, and if parents get involved, we can make a huge difference in their life. And usually when children come with present with all these problems, parents come with all these problems of whatever they are, focus issues, we usually tell them that if you are going to get involved and if you are committed, we'll take this child. Otherwise, it's pretty much impossible. They come once a week for 1 hour and then go back, and they come back fresh slate again once a week. It gets very hard. They still do improve if they consistently come, but the problem is we are taking additional pains, and there are other children also. So the whole class needs to be disciplined because there's one child like that. If we have to take that extra step, if the parent is not committed, then the motivation from the teacher side also goes down. So this is one other thing when you are handling classes, especially for therapy folks. If you would like to take any child and work on the child, you have to systematically design the protocol and involve the parent and give the homework, including these little shlokas that they have to play at home constantly. That little shloka, Vasudeva Sutam Devam, was one of the shlokas we selected for one of the autistic child, not autistic, ADHD child. Like high energy, it's just unbelievable. The child is simply, even to make him sit for, forget 2 minutes, 20 seconds is hard. It doesn't stay, it's just constantly moving. And you can bring the discipline, you can really, at the end of 6 months, I'm sure he will sit for 1 minute. But that's a huge improvement from not even 5 seconds to 1 minute. But that has to be done in tandem with the parent. So if parent is not motivated, oh, I have work to do, I have this to do, I have to pick up and I have to feed and I have to put the child to bed and next morning I have to run, we say, no, you have to sacrifice something to get something. Otherwise, don't come here and waste our time. So this is one of the things I wanted to bring up, that you can make that difference if you give that little homework and they diligently follow. So I'm going to ask next class, has he done this? And by repetition, we already know. I was able to teach the child with that energy, with that running around, 2 lines. Sahana vavatu, sahana bhunaktu, sahaviryankara vavahai. No, sahaviryankara vavahai was difficult for him, but we still did it. But next class when he came, sahana vavatu was easy, he said it. Sahana bhunaktu also he said it. Sahaviryankara vavahai, after another 2-3 rounds, he was able to say. So that was 5 minutes. So we just say, I'm just going to give you only, after that we'll play games. So the game becomes the incentive, and you have to take only about 5 minutes also is too much for that child. I said 5 minutes, but after 3 minutes the child was completely, there was no way I could continue. But within those 3 minutes, we were able to make the child get familiar with Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryankara Vavahai, all 4 lines, and repeat the first 2. Just those 3 minutes. See, this is how you work with children. That is the child with ADHD. But now, talking about even the healthier child, the ones with okay focus and all, those children also, we give them 5 minutes and we challenge them. And we were able to teach 2 shlokas of Bhagavad Gita in about 10 minutes, and they were able to repeat it without checking. All 4 padas, all of them, 2 shlokas, fully, within 10 minutes. And next day, when they came, now, I'm not going to say it, you say it. And in a group, of course, one compensates for the other, right? One knows one line better than the other and so forth. They were able to say both the shlokas. Previous day, 10 minutes. So this is the power of grabbing short attention spans and giving them the teachings. And even for the studies like 11th grade, junior year, Many of the times they will be studying from morning till evening, until 2 o'clock. I have this much study, that much study. It can come down so significantly if they know how to focus the attention for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, at the most half an hour, and not more than that. Many of the parents tend to just think that the child is studying for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours in a room. Even with years of yoga practice, we cannot take a book and start studying for 4 hours. I learned this from when I was very young with my father. I used to read and read and read, supposedly, right? We are doing something else in between. We are like, daydreaming and whatnot. So I used to study until 2 o'clock, and my father saw me. This was 10th grade, 11th grade, I don't remember. He then said, "What are you doing? Why don't you sleep?" I said, "Look, there is so much studies to do." "Are you sure there is so much studies to do? Take a clock. When you start reading," he gave me the stopwatch in those days, right? Now, start the stopwatch when you start reading, and as soon as the mind distracts, stop the stopwatch. How would we even know the mind distracts? But anyway, he gave that idea. One day I studied like that, and I found myself miserable. I was not even concentrating for 10 minutes. Something would happen, and he would say, "Stop the stopwatch," and then start again and continue again. So I did that, and I found myself to be such a miserable reader. That habit continued, and later, in about 1 month's effort, he just said that, he left, he never bothered to see what I was doing. But after a month of that sadhana, which I did on my own, I found that one day I was able to read 10 hours. That 10 hours of reading, meaning stop the stopwatch when you are not doing something, or when you are distracted, or when you were going out. This 10 hours also came, of course, with so many starts and stops. But I was drained, completely drained that day, because I realized how hard it is to pay attention to what you're doing and be awareful. And in fact, funny part is somehow I was not able to replicate even that day, 10 hours. At the most, it would be at 8 hours, and I would be okay with that. But 10 hours that day, for some reason, it was probably the euphoric feeling or whatever that was. So, and I started sleeping at around 10:30, 11. So that 2 o'clock came down to 10:30, 11. So this lesson taught me that it is not how long you do something, it is how short and how concentrated an action is. So that is something, if you teach your children as well as the children who come to the class, and then teach them whatever shloka you want to teach, and give them that. So now that is the time. Okay, now focus. And I'm going to stop after 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So this is the way to teach. That also slowly builds the stamina of concentration, stamina of learning. Kids don't have stamina of learning. They somehow manage. These things are the work of yoga for children. It's one thing to have fun in the class and go home with some positive values, which is also important, by the way. All that is fine. But when you have to make a difference, you bring this aspect. Then the parents also will be motivated to send the child to the class. So talk to them and explain, this is what we are doing. So we used to have workshops called Yoga for Memory and Focus, and we used to bring these. They got busy, so we stopped that. But yeah, we can. All right. So we'll just eat and come back.